In 1944, deep within the humid jungles of Lubang Island in the Philippines, a Japanese intelligence officer made a decision in seconds, one that would shape the rest of his life. He believed he was carrying out his duty. He believed his empire still depended on him. And he had no idea that this moment, this single choice, would follow him across 3 decades, long after the war had ended, and eventually bring him face to face with a truth he never imagined. By late 1944, the Second World War was reaching its violent conclusion in the Pacific. The once expanding Japanese empire was rapidly shrinking under relentless American offensives. One island after another fell to U.S. forces armed with overwhelming naval power, air superiority, and immense logistical strength. The Philippines had become a crucial battleground. If the United States captured the islands, Japan would lose its connection to vital resources in Southeast Asia. Desperation set in. Japanese commanders began issuing extreme orders: defend every island to the last man, no retreat, no surrender, and no acceptance of capture. Lubang Island was small, but strategically positioned. The Japanese hoped to slow American advances by maintaining a presence there. However, the conditions were brutal. Reinforcements were impossible. Supply lines were gone. Communication with headquarters was collapsing. Every soldier knew this truth. They were fighting a war that their country could no longer win. But in the Imperial Army, surrender was not an option. And so men were expected to survive in the wilderness, harass Allied forces, and carry out their mission even if cut off from the outside world. Into this world stepped Hiroo Onoda, a man whose loyalty would outlive the war itself. Hiroo Onoda was born on March 19, 1922, in a modest rural town in Wakayama Prefecture. His early life was shaped by Japanese traditions of discipline, family honor, and personal duty. He was not the strongest child, nor the most confident, but he possessed a quiet determination that others often overlooked. At school, he struggled academically, yet excelled in endurance and mental focus. He was fascinated by survival, by patience, by the ability to endure hardship quietly. These traits would later define him. His father served in the military and died in the war when Hiroo was just a boy. That loss strengthened his sense of obligation. He grew up believing that his father's sacrifice was noble, and that he must one day live up to the same ideal. In 1942, he entered the army. His superiors quickly noticed his ability to remain calm under pressure, to think clearly in difficult situations, and to follow orders with unwavering precision. He was selected for intelligence training, taught sabotage, infiltration, psychological operations, and long-term survival. His instructors believed he could operate alone for years if necessary. For Onoda, this was not a burden, it was an honor. He felt chosen. He felt trusted. By the time he was 22, he had already survived intense training, jungle warfare simulations, and strict mental conditioning. His mindset going into the Lubang mission was absolute. Complete your orders. Never surrender. Never believe enemy propaganda. Never return without victory. These principles became the foundation of the next 29 years of his life. On December 26, 1944, Onoda arrived on Lubang Island. It was quiet, too quiet. But silence in wartime rarely meant safety. He was ordered to hide in the jungle, gather intelligence, disrupt American operations, and resist in any way possible. His mission was clear. The island must not fall intact, and he was to fight no matter how long it took. Almost immediately, things began to unravel. American forces landed with enormous firepower. Japanese defenses collapsed within days. Onoda and a small group of soldiers retreated into the mountains, a dense, suffocating world of tangled vines, roaring insects, and constant rain. They lived off coconuts, wild bananas, and stolen rice. They patched their clothing with pieces of bark. They watched the coastline from hidden ridges, waiting for an attack that never came. One evening, as Onoda studied the horizon for enemy ships, he heard explosions, but not the expected sound of battle. They were fireworks. The war was shifting elsewhere. To Onoda, this was a sign. The Americans were preparing a long campaign. He must hold the island until reinforcements arrived. But the truth was the opposite, the war was already ending. In October 1945, months after Japan had officially surrendered, Onoda made a discovery that would alter the course of his life. A leaflet floated down from the sky, dropped by Allied planes. It read, "The war ended on August 15th. The Japanese army has surrendered. Come down from the mountains." Onoda froze. The jungle around him seemed to go silent. He examined the leaflet closely. The ink was too neat. The message too simple. The timing too suspicious. To him, it felt like a trick, the enemy attempting to lure loyal soldiers out of hiding. He thought of his training. Do not be deceived. Hold your position. Trust only direct orders from your commanding officer. So he folded the leaflet, placed it inside his uniform, and whispered something only he could hear. "My mission continues." In that moment, the world moved forward. And Onoda stepped backward into a time that no longer existed. Weeks turned into months. Months into years. Years into decades. Onoda and his remaining companions engaged in small skirmishes with local villagers, believing them to be part of the enemy's infiltration. They stole rice, repaired their weapons, and survived through sheer discipline. Villagers shouted at them, "The war is over. Please go home." But to Onoda, the words were enemy strategies. Voices disguised, scripts rehearsed. More leaflets appeared, even letters from his family. But the handwriting looked strange. The paper seemed too new. He suspected forgeries. Slowly, his group grew smaller. One soldier surrendered in 1950. Another was killed in 1952. His last companion, Kozuka, died in 1972 in a clash with local police. For the first time, Onoda was truly alone. He built makeshift shelters, crafted tools, and sharpened his blade on river stones. He aged, but he did not change. His uniform faded, his hair grayed, but his mission remained. Hold the island. Await orders. Never surrender. His world had become a memory, frozen in 1945. In February 1974, nearly 3 decades after Onoda disappeared, a young Japanese adventurer named Norio Suzuki traveled to Lubang Island. He told friends before leaving, "I'm going to find Lieutenant Onoda, a panda, and the abominable snowman, in that order." Few believed he would find anything. But Suzuki was determined. After days of searching, he finally stumbled upon a man wearing a faded military uniform, carrying a Type 99 rifle polished with care, and moving with the discipline of a trained soldier. Hiroo Onoda stepped forward. Suzuki explained the truth. Japan had surrendered 29 years ago. The empire was gone. Tokyo was a modern city filled with lights. Families had built new lives. Onoda listened in silence. Then he replied, "If the war truly ended, my superior officer must relieve me of duty. Until then, I remain a soldier of Japan." Word reached Japan. And so, in an extraordinary moment, Onoda's former commanding officer, now an elderly man, traveled to Lubang Island. Wearing his old uniform, he approached the jungle clearing where Onoda waited. He gently removed a worn document from his pocket and read, "Lieutenant Hiroo Onoda. I order you to cease all combat operations. The war ended many years ago. You may return home with honor." Onoda stood still. Then, after 29 long years, he slowly lowered his rifle. His mission, the mission that had defined his entire adult life, was finally over. The Pacific War left scars across nations and generations. It took millions of lives, reshaped empires, and altered the course of human history. But stories like Hiroo Onoda's reveal something deeper, a truth about conviction, duty, and the fragile nature of belief. For nearly 30 years, Onoda lived inside a war that no longer existed. His loyalty was absolute, yet it came with immense personal cost. His story is not one of glory, but of dedication taken to its furthest edge. In the end, it was not force, not weapons, and not armies that brought him home, but a single human connection. A stranger who walked into the jungle and chose to speak with kindness instead of conflict. The war was filled with destruction, hatred, and loss. But stories like this remind us that even in humanity's darkest hours, a single act of compassion can echo for generations. If you want more forgotten stories from history's darkest and brightest hours, don't forget to subscribe.